right, what's up, my friends? Welcome to the Wise Idea Weekly Podcast with Christopher J. Harris. I am your host, Christopher J. Harris, and I am so very honored that you've tuned in to today's show. We are providing tools for inspiration and wisdom for life. We want to inspire everyday people to live wise lives. Yep, we're providing strategies for hearts to be inspired and heads to be wise. My, what a journey it has been. And I'm so excited about what the future holds. It's going to be so much fun to continue to bring the Wise Idea podcast to you on a weekly basis. If you're new to the podcast, welcome to the party. I'm so glad you're here. And I don't know how you found us. I don't know if some of you may have just lucked up on us. And I don't even believe in luck, but I'll use that term for right now. Whatever the case may be, however you found us, I'm so glad you're here. I hope it won't be your last time. I hope this is the beginning of a great relationship between you and I and our podcast. Just so you know what you're getting yourself into here. I am personally passionate about life and leadership, family and marriage and ministry, the church. And so that's the focus of this podcast. And I believe that wise ideas positively change the course of lives. Make no mistake about it, and we say it all the time, when wisdom becomes a part of your life gets better in every area. And so if you're new to us, we release a brand new podcast every single Thursday. And I know a lot of you, I've been hearing from some of you, but many of you are listening to this podcast with friends and in groups. And I would love to hear about those groups and those listening parties that are happening around the world. Of course, our podcast website is thewiseideapodcast.com. You can send us an email, ask us a question, make recommendations, engage and interact with us on email at info@thewiseideapodcast.com. I want to personally invite all of you, please share the podcast on your social media platforms. And of course, if you're on iTunes or Google Play, please leave us a rating and a review. I'll be so honored to hear from you and to see those reviews posted there. Of course, the tools, the show notes, and other information, you can get that directly into your inbox. Send us an email, and we'll make sure that you stay tuned in. All right, enough of the intro stuff, y'all. Let's get into today's topic. Guess what? For the next few weeks, we are going to be talking about how in the world has social media changed our lives. Think about this, guys. Man, can you imagine the world before smartphones? What about life before Facebook and Instagram? Or how about this? How many of you all have been sitting down, you pull up your social media, and then you look up and realize you spent an hour and a half on Instagram? Come on, somebody. You know I'm talking to you. If you felt that zinger just then, like I'm right there with you, I get it. Well, make no mistake about it, social media has changed our lives. And I couldn't think of anybody better to get this conversation going with us than my new brother, Jason Caston. What's up, Jason?
Oh man, that's it. I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk about this.
Well, listen. So I could have kept talking and introed this. I'm gonna use a big word just to sound smart for a minute. This magnanimous biography that you have, but. Let's just kind of tell the people who you are a little bit. You're an entrepreneur. You got a tech startup. You've got you are currently the director of digital media for Daystar TV. You're a consultant. You're an adjunct professor. You've worked with churches that are household names all over the country. Man, tell a little bit more about who you are, what you do, some of the churches that you've worked with.
All right, man. I mean, that was a great intro right there. So let's see. I'm to sum it all up, I'm a tech guy, tech geek coder who actually knows how to speak normal. So the lot of stuff that I talk about and have written about with the books that I've written is basically taking these complex tech topics, whether it be digital stuff, social media, mobile, and breaking it down and making it easy, which is how I got into the faith-based space because of talking about these different digital topics. Because tech people don't go to the faith-based space; they go to corporate America where they can make so much more money or do a whole bunch of other things. So that was one of the things that's helped as far as me becoming who I am. started working corporate America, probably had about, I don't know, 30, 40 jobs. Whether I quit or got fired or whatever, I just didn't find what I was looking for till I started working in the faith-based space. And by that, I mean, I moved to LA and worked with Crenshaw Christian Center out there with Fred Price. That was the first church job I had in '07. From there, moved to Dallas and started working with the Potter's House at Jake's, worked there for 5 years and started consulting, speaking at conferences and writing books. I've worked with, Bill Winston and Salem in Chicago, Torrey and Sarah at Potter's House, LA, and Fellowship, Christian Leadership Alliance, a lot of different churches, a lot of different organizations. And so just have been enjoying, this ride.
That's Fellowship in Dallas with Pastor Ed Young. Is that you're talking about?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Not the Fellowship in Chicago. I'm familiar with there since I'm from Chicago. You definitely got to be clear on that. I'm talking about in Dallas, not up in Chicago where I'm from.
No, I love that, man. So here's what's crazy, man. And people that think that they know me, they'll probably be surprised with what I'm about to say. So I totally get what you were saying when you talked about being a techie, but you talk normal. Most people don't know that actually my bachelor's degree, I actually got a bachelor's degree in a program that was called Information Systems or Information Science. And at the time at Florida State, the business program was creating a partnership with our information studies program because they needed people to go and work in these the big five, if you would, or the Fortune 500 companies that understood the tech stuff but could talk normal and talk to the salesmen and the staff and the leadership in common language. So I actually, man, in undergrad, I had to learn how to do COBOL and Cold Fusion and C++ and Visual Basic and all of that stuff, man.
Yeah. That's same with me. Degree in computer science, but a master's in MBA with a specialty in e-commerce. So I know the business side, I know the tech side, and when you can see from both sides of those both sides of the table, it's a whole different dynamic when you walk into tech stand-ups and do your little meetings and talk about what y'all doing in the next sprint and all that type of stuff, and then you go into these business meetings or executive meetings or leadership meetings and you're talking about this tech stuff, but they don't talk tech, so you got to break it down, especially in the faith-based space. So when I'm talking about digital stuff in the faith-based space, I got to use examples that are related to traditional church experiences, but in the digital space, so that they can understand how we're trying to do certain things and not eliminate, the traditional faith-based experience.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump into some of this here a little bit. So first of all, let's start off with the big question. How in the world has social media changed our life?
Oh, man. Social media has changed everything as we know it. It has done quite an interesting thing that I think it didn't start. It did. I don't know if it was intended to at the beginning, but it has blurred the lines between online and offline. So much so to the point where future generations, and I'm not talking about like years, because now technology is speeding up. I'm talking about future generations, and the kids we see today will not consider something as online or offline. It will just be. And so there will be no difference. And so now when we see stuff that happens on social media, you see how it impacts. Stuff that happens online is impacting our lives offline, whether it be good and bad. And we have numerous examples. From a business perspective, you cannot effectively do business on the level that you want to do it without having some type of online presence and impacting people in the social media space. Perfect example is customer service for all businesses. People expect you to be able to do some types of customer service on social media. Instead of picking up the phone and calling with my issues, I want to tweet you, or I expect, you to be able to inform me, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook, as far as what's going on with your business. What are the new promotions you have in campaigns? People want you to meet them where they're at. And that's what social media has done. I want you to bring your business, bring your organization, bring your faith-based initiatives to me on the platforms, the social media platforms that I'm already on and billions of other of us are on. So it's interesting to see how that is. And then we haven't gotten into groupthink and how it sways public opinion and popular opinion and all that type of stuff. So much so that information is everywhere, and we're not using mainstream methods anymore. The methods of information are continually evolving. Social media is one of the most effective.
That's so funny that you would say that, because and you started alluding to this a little bit with groupthink. I don't know that I go to a restaurant now without at least checking them out on Open Table or Yelp or something like that. So that's so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're looking for what people that looking at the comments and what people say, and then if you see one of your friends, somebody that you're a friend with in the social media space who's left a comment about a restaurant, then that holds more weight. Also, we notice in the comments, and Amazon has, become the master of this, negative comments seem to catch our attention more. We'll read through 10 great comments, see one negative, and go away from the product, leave the restaurant, not go to, it's just so interesting how that particular dynamic plays in our mindset. Very much a social media.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we people can acknowledge that social media has changed our world. How has it caused us to become unhealthy? What are those spaces and ways that technology, social media, smartphones, smart houses, all of those things, in what ways has any of this become unhealthy for us in our living?
Well, I'm definitely biased in this because I'm more immersed in the tech space, but I'll give my opinion on this. It has created a dependence to where we're depending on the technology for whatever it is, the solution that we're looking for. So from a negative perspective, when you get so immersed in technology, it becomes your crutch that you don't know how to effectively operate without the technology. Examples are, we don't remember phone numbers anymore because we just pull out our phones and, click on contacts, and that's how we get to the people. So if we ever have a situation where our phones are taken away from us, we don't remember the numbers to get in touch with the people we need to get in touch with. Additionally, when you go to restaurants or dinner tables, and we see people talk about this a lot, young people, or actually, I don't want to say young people, a lot of people are more engaged in their phones than they're engaged in the actual moment that they're in. So, or from the worst cases of humanity, we see where people are actually in trouble, getting hurt, or stuff is happening, and instead of helping, people are recording it, with their devices. So those are some of the worst case scenarios. Some of the better scenarios where it helps us out is the convenience part, where you can control your entire house, using your mobile devices or using Alexa or using these new digital solutions, so much so that the stuff we used to see on the Jetsons is now real life. So that's the type of stuff that, and what that does is it opens up new opportunities for business and creating and new ideas that we can utilize to help build out new streams of income and opportunities of wealth for each other.
So Jason, I'll send you some free CDs if you can sing the Jetson song right now.
Let me think. What is it? Dun, 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 dun. Meet George Jetson. Dun, 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 dun. His wife Judy. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Was it Jane the wife? I don't know. Either way, yeah, I remember some of that now.
You almost got your CD.
Oh, I thought that was it right there. I thought that was it.
No, man, but that's funny because when the Jetsons were out, it's crazy to see how fast things have evolved. That what we were watching on a cartoon, as you just said, is now happening in real life. I mean, I was on the interstate the other day and saw this car driving itself, and man, I was blown away. It like candidly, it spooked me out a little bit. I'm like, man, and so you read this stuff, but then to see it in real life is a whole other context, like for real.
Yeah, I mean, think about how far back you actually first heard about self-driving cars. I really could say maybe 5, 6, 7 years, and now they're actually on the road, being tested, obviously to the point where they're having crashes. So, and as well as but you only hear the news talk about the crashes. So if they have 3,000 successful rides, we're going to hear about the one crash. But obviously that's a shock value and what people will feed into people's fears of technology. But again, everything we're seeing, the stuff that we thought wasn't going to occur is happening at a accelerated rate. So the stuff that we didn't think about as well, augmented reality, virtual reality, the stuff we saw in movies that was crazy is real life. Here's a good example. It was Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report. In the movie, they're moving stuff around with their hands, and you're seeing like these holograms and stuff that they're moving around with their hands, and you can do that on Xbox or new virtual reality stuff that they have out now. That the funny thing about that is our kids think this is normal. This is their norm. This will be old to them. This will be their 8-track, their old Nintendos when they get older and start looking at how fast technology has evolved. So we have issues about how immersed they're going to be in it, which is why for the parents out here that's listening to us this conversation, me and my wife talk about how much our kids should be on their phones or how much technology they should have. And me being immersed in it all day, I think they should be in it a lot because I don't want them to get left behind. But I do know that with her being a counselor and seeing children, she understands that they should have a healthy dose of disconnecting. So we do go back and forth. So I want them to be immersed in it because I don't want them to get left behind. And the world is moving faster towards technologically savvy in every area. But I don't want them to be disconnected with real life connections and being able to interact with people on a one-on-one or one-to-many basis. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you there because even for me as a dad, my wife and I have wrestled with that tension as well, and literally, so we have worked to create boundaries for the devices. Here are times that you can use it. Here's times that you can't use it. Here are here's what you can do with your devices. Here's what you can't do with the devices. And, even use a few apps to help us track and monitor usage and those kinds of things. So we even have told all of our kids, okay, so if you spend this amount of time on a device, we need to see you spend this amount of time in a book or in something that's going to, be academic or what have you. And, some people would challenge that in some ways. And we know that people learn differently and all of that. But part of that is just our old school nature. And the other part of it is recognizing that no matter what industry you are going to be in, there's some things that I don't know that technology is going to help you learn how to do unless you engage with people or stretch your mind in a very real way. So we started going down this road here a little bit. So here, man, we got so much that I'd love to talk to you about. So I want to give some information for individuals that are listening to this. I want to give some information for parents that are listening to this. I want to give some information for leaders that are listening to this. And then I want to talk about the church and technology for a few minutes too. So we got to figure out how to do all of this in a short amount of time. All
right. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. I got answers for every area of that.
I'm sure you do. So we just talked about parenting a little bit. And I'll ask this question last. Because I think we'll have some fun with this one. What would you tell individuals that are listening to this that they need to be aware of in terms of not just where technology is now, but where it's going? What is it that they need to be aware of and paying attention to and thinking about in terms of where technology is going?
Oh, and see, that's the thing. I'm glad you asked that question because anytime we talk about technology, people talk about, man, this is what we're seeing now. This is what's going on. This is what we're seeing now and stuff like that. But it's interesting to see where things are going and stuff like that and where it's turning out to be. So what I'm seeing is with where technology is going is I look a lot at, we need to be aware of that everything that we see that's coming out that's very, most technologically advanced is another way that we're being monitored. So just understand that the more technologically advanced you want to be, the less you have in privacy. And so that's been a huge issue with social media and any of the digital solutions that we've saw because, Facebook had a huge issue with the privacy and what happened, with their network being compromised and so on. everything we do, we're talking about, me and you were talking about smart homes earlier and self-driving cars. All of those things, are internet enabled or Internet of Things type of devices, and people can monitor you in every aspect. So, as long as you're in control of them, you feel like you're empowered and that you have, you're pretty much running the show. But that's not what the case is. The technology is running the show for all these new devices and what we're using. So that's the thing you have to be concerned with. The benefit of it is that the best part, I guess, would be, the things that are coming are going to make our reality much more interesting to be a part of. Again, creating opportunities, new streams of income, new ideas that we can't even comprehend. But virtual reality is coming down the line. And by that, I mean, Facebook just announced that they have a virtual reality device that a lot of people are going to be using. Augmented reality is here. And by that, I mean the mixing between digital and reality. And by that, we saw Pokemon Go, and people actually start searching for Pokemons in the middle of parks or walking into traffic. They're basically walking into traffic looking for digital things that are laid over actual real reality. That's what augmented reality is.
Jason, what happened to Pokemon Go, man? That thing came. It seemed like it came and went.
Well, that's another thing about technology. Our attention spans are getting shorter because there's so much more things that are coming. So Pokemon Go came, people played it, they loved it, then they moved on to the next thing, which is Fortnite, and what all the kids are playing now. So you just see that people are moving from the thing to thing as technology continues to evolve. But augmented reality is something that's new, that's coming down the line. And we're seeing social media continue to evolve to the point where it's going to be everything. Everything is going to be social media enabled and internet enabled. So the next version of the internet, which right now we're using 4G, I believe, for our mobile devices and stuff. 5G is going to be even faster. So our mobile devices are going to be even faster. Everything's going to be internet enabled. Everything that you use will have some type of internet component to it. So what that is going to do, and not from a conspiracy theory perspective, just from a real life perspective, is more of your offline experiences are going to be catered to you individually the way your online experiences are. Your Facebook newsfeed is catered to you based on what your preferences are. Your Google results are catered to you based on what your preferences are. You're going to be out in the real world and you're going to start seeing advertising catered to you based on your preferences that only you will be able to see, based on how, where you're at. If you're looking at advertisements in store windows and stuff like that using smart glass, you'll be able to see stuff. Someone next to you will be seeing something totally different looking at the same glass. It's just all that's going to be catered to you. And so that whole digital experience is going to infiltrate every aspect of our offline world.
So will it be possible, in your opinion, to live and function in society without being hyper-connected?
Yeah, you can live off the grid, but it will be essentially, you will think that they will paint you to be somebody crazy if you live off the grid. The way they look at people now who are out in the woods, they're off the grid and they're disconnected from society. They paint them out to be crazy. No, you can live off the grid. But if you're going to be living in what we consider the norm now, whether it be an urban environment, suburban, or stuff like that, no, you'll be hyper connected.
All right. So let me ask a crazy question. Is there a room somewhere that someone could hit a switch and turn the internet off?
Technically, they say no, but yeah, it's possible to turn it off.
Man, listen, this stuff is so deep, man. Like, I feel like I'm, what was the movie with Will Smith in it where they like tracking his shoes and belt and cufflinks and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, where he wasn't supposed to look up at the satellite and wasn't supposed to make a call.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. Funny thing, when you're talking about that, I didn't even realize this. I went to the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, and I worked for the NCSA as one of those what they call work study jobs. I didn't know at the time that NCSA was a supercomputing agency, one of about 4, I believe, in the country, or maybe 5 or 6 around the world. National Center for Supercomputing Applications.
Okay.
And basically they control, one of the major portals for who controls the internet and stuff like that. I didn't realize I was working for that type of organization at the time. It was just a work study job to me that paid really well at that time, back when I was in college. But that's where I learned about, like, who controls the internet. Even though not one organization controls it, there are different people who play their part. But that's where I learned about that type of stuff. I didn't know where we were going, but it's interesting to see when you get to that level and seeing those type of things and who's controlling what's going on. Again, not from a conspiracy theory perspective, just from this is what real life is, and outside of Silicon Valley, it's other players in the game.
So Jason, so you just admitted that you worked for the NC whatever. This is all your fault, man. This is all your fault. All of this is your fault, and you didn't even know it.
Yeah, I didn't know my part to play in it. But again, as I was telling you before we started the recording, when you look back on certain things, you're like, oh, wow, okay, it has been a lot. I had totally forgot about that, just thinking about my old college days.
That's cool. So, but I think that's a major point that you made earlier when you talked about, so when we asked the question, where's tech going? I mean, one of the first things you immediately talked about in your expertise is that this notion of privacy and this illusion of privacy. Mm-hmm. And I think where that impacts us on a very practical level for, those of us that are listening to this episode and those that may hear it later on, really who you are in private is going to be who you're going to be seen as in public, or who you are in private, other people will know that about you. And so then you got to become comfortable enough with, the vices of your life at some point potentially being put up on a screen or potentially being aired out in some sort of way or fashion that you got to become comfortable with. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, that's very, very, that's going to be a huge issue for a lot of people. The stuff that they are, the way they are when they think the camera's not on, or the device is not listening, or social media is not following you, is actually always going to be something that could be exposed. There's a digital trail. There's a camera everywhere. There's a device always listening. And we're seeing that now with social media and just all the issues that are being brought to light. Is because people are recording everything. It doesn't mean that the stuff wasn't always happening. You could do a lot of stuff back in the 80s and 90s. Now they're recording everything, so you're seeing stuff being exposed that people used to do in private, and that's going to be on a whole new level because of this one aspect. The younger people we're seeing who are starting to step up and become productive members of society, and as they're growing older, they're used to recording everything, good and bad. So now they don't see the issues with recording the stuff that they're doing that is awful, and some of us older people, we say, man, I'm glad there wasn't a camera around when I was younger, because I know I did some dumb stuff I didn't want recorded. The kids, they want to record it because of, the shock value, the popularity that comes from being online and all that type of stuff. But that stuff follows you. And again, whether it be younger, older, whatever, black, brown, white, yellow, what have you, everything, it has the possibility of being recorded and exposed.
No, you're absolutely right, man. I think, Lord have mercy. I think if, and not that I don't know that I did anything too crazy, but if some of the stuff that we participated in or said or did when we were in college, if it was televised, man, I think some of us, man, we'd have to have press conferences and press releases. We'd have to have like a Kerry Washington, kind of person to help us out sometimes.
Oh yeah, I'm not quite sure I would have been working for working in the church space at all. I don't think so. So that just doesn't seem like that would have been an option.
That's funny, man. Well, listen, I think that this is a smooth transition into this whole notion then of how technology and how leaders, and this is leaders in the faith-based community and nonprofit and business, in tech, whatever, as leaders, we've got to start thinking about this stuff differently from a leadership standpoint. There used to be a time where, you would come to a meeting and people say no devices. Well, is that realistic, anymore? Or, even as and I'll get to the church stuff in a minute, but even as a pastor, we used to, almost be distracted if people were on their phone in church. And now it's almost strange if they're not, So from a leadership standpoint, a pure leadership standpoint, how do leaders need to pivot and adjust in terms of those traditional models that just are no longer working anymore. You're dealing with people, and I love in one of your articles that I read online, you talked about digital natives and what that means and what that looks like. So as leaders, how do we need to adjust and embrace this new time that we're living in?
Well, I think that leaders need to look at continuing to evolve the methods they use, but staying on message. And that's across all different disciplines and industries. The methods that they're using to lead and those type of things need to evolve and address the different types of people that they're leading, whether their attention spans are shorter and they're more interested in digital, they're more receptive to digital methods, as well as the older people that they're leading who are used to the traditional methods. Unfortunately, there comes a time where leaders, hopefully they don't overstay their welcome and they utilize legacy and help raise up other leaders to take their place. But they get to the point where they are become out of touch because the methods start to disrupt the message. So they're using ineffective methods, even though their message is still effective. And so when you use an ineffective method, the message is lost. And so now we're seeing these leaders, who have to continually stay effective with these methods that they're using. And the way that they do that is, one is listening to the people around them and not being in a silo thinking they know everything, and understanding here's a new method that's evolving and this is the way that we can utilize it. For example, it was great for the leaders of back in the past to be great orators and be able to shout to crowds and be able to speak and command crowds. Then, you got the radio came and you could reach much larger audience with that. Then TV came and you were able to utilize an audience with that. And now we have digital methodologies or digital methods that they can utilize and reach audiences. So again, if you stay updated on the methods, then you'll be able to reach people where they're at, because that is the goal, to reach people where they're at using a method that is effective for them, as opposed to making everybody adhere to the method that you're comfortable with. And that's just not going to work any farther or further.
Yeah. And I think for leaders, I think it's important for leaders to at least accept, that our world has changed. And, in my own language, I'm sure that there's probably some technical book out there. Maybe you've written it or something. I don't know. But in my approach, I say that there are tech users and then there are people who are tech savvy. Tech users use the information, they use the technology or the devices or the machinery or the apps or whatever because they're forced to or they have to. But if they had to use it, they wouldn't use it, right? Like, in other words, there's other people out there that are tech savvy. They're going out and they're finding the innovative ways to do it. And I look at it like this, right? So I've been involved with organizations and in meetings and stuff before where people were planning things and they were working hard to try to say, okay, we need to schedule this meeting at 7:00 and everybody needs to be there and da-da-da-da. And myself included, others in the room are like, wait a minute, we could do a conference call. We could do a video call. And it's just like being in the room together, and some of those leaders would not even conceptualize that, wait a minute, we could do a video call. Or, there's other platforms out there to still make this happen in a way that makes sense. Or even more so, how about some of what we're meeting about is not a meeting? Send me an email. And then, like, how many wasted meetings do we still have to have?
Oh yeah, that in itself. I mean, I'm sure that's a whole a series we could do with your podcast about wasted meetings and wasted time and ineffective communication methods. Oh my goodness, I don't even want to get started with that.
Yeah, a few months ago. Well, actually, it probably been about 6 months ago now, man. So I had a meeting one day that was supposed to be in Atlanta. The meeting that afternoon was supposed to be another meeting that was supposed to be in DC, I think it was. And so I left home at like 4:00 that morning, Tampa, Florida, flew to Atlanta, went to my meeting, flew to DC, went to my meeting, and then flew back home and was home by 11 p.m. And when I got back, my wife asked me, how's your day and how are the meetings? And I'm sitting there like, man, I was in 3 different cities in 24 hours, and both meetings could have been, we could have set up a Zoom call for all of that,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? But in those leaders' mind, like, we need you in person, and we need to be able to, now I'm not taking away the fact that there are some things you do need to be able to be in the room with each other and work through and strategize and dream together and all of that. But at the same time, that doesn't dismiss the fact that we've got technology that's available to us to help make things work,
Absolutely. And I would hope that the comfort level of the leaders that are listening, is able to adapt and adjust to the technological solutions that we're seeing come out more each day.
Yeah, I have found that it's helpful for leaders to make space for the tech savvy people in their organizations to make recommendations for them. If they're at least open to that, then it makes the leader better.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it empowers them, because the thing is, what I've learned, and if you look at the list, the 48 laws of power, unfortunately, from a negative perspective, it says first law is never outshine the master, and when you're in an organization and you're trying to help uplift them and educate them and empower them with information and knowledge that you have, some leaders they're uncomfortable with that, and therefore you need to be removed. But if you're in a healthy organization with a leader that's all about continuously learning, he understands that he can still be Phil Jackson and you can be Michael Jordan, no matter what. And you got the Scottie Pippens, you got the whole team, that's all stars and Hall of Famers, but they need that leader, that coach, that Zen master, to be able to lead them. And we're just trying to help, empower that coach, but the coach is the leader of the team. And so some leaders understand that, a lot of leaders don't.
You're absolutely right. So let's shift over to talk about the church. Let's talk about the church a little bit. Let's talk about pastors and church leaders and ministries and all of that. And so I'll tell you something really funny, man. I met this guy one time that got fired from a church, Jason. He got fired from a church because he created a Instagram account for marriages. He and his wife were passionate about marriage and created an Instagram account for marriages. And the pastor fired him because the pastor said he was trying to start a parachurch ministry.
For the sake of keeping this podcast extremely positive, I could give you so many examples of churches and experiences that I've had where, as my example I gave you about don't outshine the master, that is where I got that from living examples like what your friend went through with creating an Instagram account and then being accused of being too ambitious, and just stuff like that. That stuff is real. That stuff has happened. Unfortunately, a lot of our people's favorite pastors, have that issue and will do that, whether they've been scorned in the past or they're insecure or whatever. That happens. I've seen it and I've experienced it.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My brother Jason, man, dropping so much knowledge, so much information on the Wise Idea podcast this week. I can't wait for you to hear the rest of this amazing conversation as we continue it next week. How in the world has social media changed our lives? We're going to be talking about it all month long on how social media has changed our lives. We're going to be talking about it from a family standpoint. Oh, as parents, I know you guys got lots of devices and lots of screen time that's happening in your home. How do we deal with that? As leaders, how do you deal with it in your organizations? Should your organizations have social media and technology policies? And how liberal should you be with those approaches and policies? As leaders in ministry, how do we engage and disengage? And how do we embrace social media and technology and what that looks like even in terms of discipleship? We're going to be bringing all of that to the conversation this month on the Wise Idea podcast. I'm so excited to have each one of you join us each week, and I look forward to having you tune in with us next week as my brother Jason continues this incredible conversation. I say it every single week. I want to invite you, please go to iTunes and Google Play. Leave us a rating and a review. That's how other listeners find us. I would love for you to give us your feedback and let us know what you are learning and how you're growing and what you think of the podcast. That'd be so insightful and engaging for us. At the same time, I want to invite you, go to thewiseideapodcast.com, and you can listen to all of our previous episodes and conversations and even see all of the show notes right there on our website. You can also subscribe to get information right directly into your inbox as information is posted live on our website. Follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. You can also follow me on all of those platforms as well. I would love to have you connect with me, and let's have an incredible conversation going. There's a lot to talk about, but we want to do it in a wise way. And so, of course, tell everybody you can, come on and jump on over on this train that's moving as we're learning and growing how to live wise lives. So thank you so much for tuning in with us. Let's look forward to part 2 of our conversation with Jason as we talk about how social media has changed our lives. I look forward to seeing and talking with all of you all next week. In the meantime, you know how I end it. Live wisely.